Well, it's October, and my orchid collection is scattered all over the place, inside and out. What do? I buy 2 more orchids. All of this and more coming up at the Orchid Hut. Yeah, it's just what us orchid people do. We buy more orchids, even when it doesn't always make the best practical, logical sense. But in any case, I have 2 new orchids to share with you today. They are bag babies from my home improvement store. A little bit of, background of how this came to be. We were shopping at our local home improvement store about 10 days ago. They had a new shipment of bag baby orchids in, which is of course the best time to purchase them because they are in the best shape and they haven't been sitting on the shelf for an extended period of time. I had a look. I found 2 that looked relatively healthy from what I could tell outside of the packaging. I like the blooms, I like the plant. And yeah, I bought them. Well, the problem is that we were about to leave on an overnight trip. So I did sort of ahead of time have a look at them through the packaging. And I decided before we left that I would water them, which I did. And there was a new growth on this particular plant which was caught up in the netting, caught up in the package netting. And I reached in with my clippers just to free that new growth because it was sort of being damaged from growing into that white net that you see wrapped around the bottom of the pots. And then we left on our trip, came back, and now I'm making the video to actually unpackage these for the very first time, have a look at what they are, and yeah, just share my new purchase with you. And why am I buying new orchids? I have no idea. So if you're new here, my name is Dana. This is the Orchid Hut. I would appreciate very much if you would consider subscribing and liking this video if you enjoy it or learn something new. Okay, so we are going to start with this one, and I'll give you a little bit of introduction to bag baby orchids if you're not familiar with how these go, or if maybe you just don't live in the US and this is new to you altogether. But when you buy a bag baby orchid, there will be a tag that kind of gives you an indication of what you're purchasing, but rarely is it perfect. So in this case, it's showing a picture of a very dark pink Cattleya type bloom, and the description says large dark purple Cattleya, easy to grow, which is sometimes true and sometimes not. And then it says exotic selection. And sometimes you can get these better grow bag babies. Sometimes they're crosses, hybrids, sometimes they're species orchids. And when you look through the packaging, if you are lucky, you can actually see the tag and the name, and then you are more certain of what you're purchasing. You can quickly Google it on your phone, and it will tell you more about the orchid and maybe a little bit about whether you'll be successful with growing it in your environment, whether it's a species, a cross, whatever. But oftentimes I find that actually reading the name can be more difficult than this particular orchid was. So we're going to go ahead and unpackage this one. Now, I happen to have already been able to read the name. And this one is a species orchid. And I'll show you the tag and pronounce it for you in just a second. It is quite a lot of English syllables. It is Cattleya lueddemaniana. Now, if the camera focuses on this, that would be great. The tag is a little bit worn there, a little bit faint. So I'll put the name up on the screen as well, Cattleya lueddemaniana. And this one is native to mostly coastal regions of Venezuela. It is a warm to hot growing Cattleya, and it is classified by the American Orchid Society as a Cattleya that is relatively easy to grow. It does not like having its feet wet, so overwatering this one could be problematic, but otherwise it's considered easy to grow. And I'll put a picture in this video when I edit it to show you the region in Venezuela where this orchid can be found. It looks like slightly rolling hills along the coast, but very arid and dry. So that probably explains why this orchid prefers to not be wet in the pot for too long. All right, so this little growth right here is the one that I freed from the netting right before we left on our trip because it was trapped and it was being deformed already. So this, growth is not going to look right even now that it has been freed. The root system at the top of the pot looks really good. If you read about the characteristics of this orchid, it's described as having round pseudobulbs, which is true, and slightly shorter leaves than many Cattleyas, so shorter in height. And I think they attribute that to the warm and dry growing conditions that is its native habitat. So this plant, now that I've unpackaged it, I'm really happy with it. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 9 larger pseudobulbs, a small seedling pseudobulb down here, and then new growth on the way, which isn't going to look right, but we'll see how that goes. It is typically a spring bloomer, so this growth right here may have produced a bloom had it not been trapped, but I did read that you can get a second blooming from these orchids in the fall. So I think I will give this one another drink, and probably in the future I think I'm going to maybe try this one in a clay pot and see how that goes, because in my growing environment that clay pot may dry out a bit better than a plastic pot, and I've already read about how this one doesn't like to be wet at the bottom of the pot. So so far so good, happy with this particular orchid. And let me get the tag back in. I'm going to take a tiny little break and then come right back with the second orchid. Okay, be right back. Okay, so moving on to orchid number 2. This one is a bit more of a mystery because I could not see the full name tag through all of the packaging. And it's a funny thing. Several years ago when I made one of these bag baby unpackaging videos, someone said, well, just open it in the store and see what it is, and I just can't bring myself to do that. Unless I have full intention of buying the orchid, I just could not bring myself to unpackage the entire orchid inside the store and then decide, ooh, I don't want this one. I think I would have a horrible time trying to put it back together, and I would feel extremely guilty if I just walked away from it unpackaged. So I don't ever do that. I just sort of take my chances. This one I could not read through the packaging, and you can probably see why there. It's a rather long tag, and a good bit of it is inside the pot. Okay, so let's have a look here at this. And because I don't know the name of this, I was not able to look it up ahead of time, but I will do that while I'm editing the video so I can give you more information. But, we're led to believe Cattleya with lavender pink blooms, yellow center, and very, very pretty, if indeed the bloom looks something like this. And there are no guarantees with bag babies. Okay, so, however, the good thing about bag babies is that if you get a healthy orchid, you know, they're relatively inexpensive. These were $15 US a piece. So, you know, a good deal, especially when you consider you don't have to pay for shipping, which is absolutely out of control here in the States. Okay, so let's have a look. Brassolalia Cattleya, Burdekin Wonder Lakeland. Okay, I have that orchid. My Burdekin Wonder Lakeland is a gorgeous large white orchid with the yellow center, and I'll insert a picture of that one when I'm editing this. But this one is that orchid crossed with Cattleya Spring Squall, crossed with Mount Hood Mary. Wow, a three-way cross there. That's a very interesting tag. So I will research that and see what else I can find. Hopefully the camera is focusing on that. I'll put my hand behind it just in case. That one is going to really be interesting to research. One of those orchids I know and I have, but the other two I'm completely unfamiliar with. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. The root system on top, not nearly as robust as the first orchid. It is looking a bit dry right now. It has 1, 2, 3 more mature pseudobulbs, a seedling pseudobulb or 2, and then a new growth right here. So still, I think, a relatively healthy orchid, potted a bit differently this time in a smaller media that looks like it has more perlite in it. But again, you know, I'll be giving this one a nice drink of water and, you know, just seeing how it goes over the winter. These will not go back outside until probably like March of next year. So they will be wintering indoors under the grow lights after they finish their quarantine of a few more days, just to make sure that there's not anything untoward going on with either one of them. And we'll see how it goes. There's always room to work in 2 more orchids, right? Okay, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, please give it a thumbs up. The subscribe button is coming in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And don't forget that notifications bell to let you know when I've posted something new. Thank you so much for watching, and talk to you next time.